I've been in this industry for 39 years, and it's been my livelihood for myself and my family and for all the people that work here. I started in this industry back in 1970, watched the mills disappear as time went by due to restrictions on timber harvesting, government litigation. Without being able to obtain federal timber, it's getting more and more difficult. We produce so many products here. We utilize every part of the tree. Lumber, of course, going for construction, for furniture and window and door manufacturing. Our bark is used for fuel. We have a cogeneration plant here. The bark from the trees is used into that to help generate power for the community and to also help sustain us, utilizing that power to keep this operation running. We send our waste, goes to chips that is used in paper mills. Sawdust also is used for fuel, and so every bit of the tree that is harvested gets utilized here. Even as far as the small limbs and stuff that aren't brought in to the sawmill are used for chips to help run the cogeneration plant and use as fuel there. We produce fine products to go to cut factories for door and window manufacturing. We produce specialty products in timbers, in Douglas fir, and had to expand into being more versatile in today's market. Due to restraints on the timber harvesting, it's been very difficult for the owners to procure enough timber to keep this operation running. This mill that I work at here at Rough and Ready is a small operation, family owned. They employ about 70 people, and it is the last remaining sawmill in Josephine County. We've seen many sawmills go down, and the jobs have been lost due to that. Hopefully this mill will be able to continue to support the families that are here, to support the people that move the lumber, the log truck drivers, the loggers, the people that service the trucks and mechanics, all through the carpenters and everybody else that's employed because of this industry. If we lose it, it's done and it cannot be replaced. I consider myself a conservationist. I believe that most of the guys that work here consider themselves conservationists. We want to see what we have here left for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. Our forestry practices need to be left into the hands of those who know the forests and know how to manage them. The foresters that we have here working for this company have all been educated. They've gone through college for all those years. They understand the differences in the different types of zones where timber is grown. They understand the soil content, how the trees grow, how it's affected by the different environment, and they manage the forest on an individual basis depending on terrain and habitat. And they're the ones that need to be left managing our forests, not in the hands of politicians or in those who have no idea what goes on here.
I'm a third generation of the family to manage the business with my husband Link, but I've seen a lot of changes since I was a little girl in this community. The Forest Service used to be a large employer, and there were lots of logging jobs in the sawmills. When I think of the difference between our community now and when I was, a little girl growing up here, I just am so struck when I drive through our town these days. There are people living on the streets. There's methamphetamine crisis without jobs. People aren't able to take care of their families and take care of themselves like they used to. And people I know here don't want a federal subsidy to help us out. They want to work. They want to be proud of what they do, and they want to have a job. As long as the federal forests are off limits for timber production, we're receiving subsidies from the federal government to help out our community. That only gives money to the counties. It doesn't create jobs, it doesn't create products, it doesn't create pride, and I don't think it'll last. Eventually, people in other states are going to say, why are we giving Oregon the subsidy? We need them to stand on their own. And it's hard to do when most of your land base is federally owned. Right here where our sawmill is, the forests around us are 80% federally owned. So for us to try to keep our mill going and keep employing the 90 people who work here, we're having to travel long distances, 200-300 miles away, to bring logs in from California and places.
It doesn't environmentally make sense to go so far away and burn so much energy to bring a resource back to this mill that's right here in our backyard.
This is our Maxi mill. We built this in the 70s when the public started wanting to go towards small diameter wood. We thought the future would be in small diameter wood, so we built this sawmill. But then as time passed, the federal forests weren't just moving away from larger diameter harvest, but they were moving away from any harvest at all. The sawmill has to be upgraded all the time, and this mill was a high production type sawmill, and in order to justify the improvements, we'd have to have plenty of wood and plenty of raw materials. And with the lawsuits and all the litigation that came out about federal timber harvest, we could see that the federal forest harvest wasn't going to be what we would need to support this mill and to support those improvements we'd have to keep doing. So we had 2 shifts going in this sawmill, and in 1990, when all the spotted owl stuff started happening, we shut down 1 shift. So we thought we were doing the right thing, but eventually in 2003, we weren't able to get any of the federal harvest that we needed to support the mill. So we shut this mill down. We only run 1 mill, 1 shift now. So we've gone from about 225 employees to our bare bones now is 90 employees.
The reasons that I think the Forest Service shies away from salvage and from roadside hazard tree removal is the threat of litigation. They don't like to spend a lot of time and effort trying to put up that type of timber sale under the fear that undoubtedly they'll have some larger trees to offer, and the environmental community will probably see that and they'll appeal the decision to go ahead and sell those hazard trees. You know, we talk about just roadside salvage and hazard tree removals along the road systems in the Siskiyou National Forest. There's an awful lot of wood out there that's just that's readily accessible. It could really sustain us for a long period of time. Those things just aren't happening in this forest around us. There's reasonable and economical and environmental logging that can go on in this valley that is just being given up on, that just doesn't happen. Many mills specialize in small logs, some mills specialize in bigger logs. We specialize in medium to large logs, but they're not what you call old growth type of logs. They're medium, and we're talking about logs that probably don't get much older than 100 years of age.
Medium-sized logs have all the clear wood on the outside, and so we're a small, high-quality, low-production sawmill, and we have very skilled people working here, and they know how to get the very most value out of those logs. And the outside is where you get the clear, beautiful wood that you see on, libraries and public buildings and doors and windows, and just the best products you see out there come from that bigger tree. So even the green certified products are coming from a bigger log, because even the green certified, even more so, the green certified purchasers want high quality wood. A lot of them don't realize that high quality wood's not coming out of that little teeny tree. It's coming out of a medium sized log on the outside where the clear wood is. So we feel good about, we're doing the right thing in the woods, we're doing the right thing in the sawmill, and consumers love our product. We build libraries and schools and things out of our wood that are there lots of times years after the tree would have been gone in the forest. They're still there, so it's not going to live forever in the woods, and it can live a really long time in your beautiful table or chair.
In the past, we got probably 90% of our raw material off of federal forests, and it's been 12 years since we've had a federal timber sale, so we're really struggling to get wood here. 2 years ago, I guess, we were successful bidder on 2 BLM timber sales. We were real pleased with that, but they were both litigated right away, and one of them's been withdrawn completely, and one of them, we're still working on. But with some of the bills that Senator Wyden and Congressman DeFazio are working on, it looks like that one might not happen either. Last week, we bid on a BLM timber sale that was a salvage sale. There was a big storm over a year ago, and there was a huge blowdown over near Butte Falls, and we bid on a timber sale there last week that was blown down in, I think, January of '08, and then in August of '08, a fire came through and burned through, but there was still value left in the logs, so they held a timber sale last week. It was blown down and burned, and it was litigated, and that sale wasn't awarded either. So we're not quite sure how we're ever going to get a federal timber sale if even blown down, burned, and probably buggy logs can't come to us.
There's a kind of funny notion that forests are stagnant, that they can be protected and they'll stay just the same. And forests are very dynamic, and no matter what we do, we can't make them stay the same. Old growth reserves have grown and burned and regrown for centuries, and you could try to protect them, but they're going to change. And what's important are all the several stages in a forest: young, medium, and old growth forests. And a lot of people don't realize that those younger stages have always existed, and it's the fire and the wind throw and the bug kill and all those things that make forests die and then regenerate.
The old growth that exists in the forest today, if the goal is to protect it and to preserve it, it's not going to happen without managing the forest around those old growth tracts. The fear that we have is that if you don't manage, if you leave everything just the way it is, that you're going to end up with these standard replacement fires like we saw over in the Biscuit Fire, where you'll have entire drainages that catch on fire, and you'll lose significant blocks of old growth timber. It'll happen again. Fire's not going to be stopped. There's going to be more fires down here, but we can lessen the blow by managing the woods around these. If old growth is the goal to preserve, we need to manage around those stands to make sure it doesn't happen, that they don't burn up.
I had a friend who was telling me about their forests where there was federal land that was overstocked and dense, and a huge fire came through and crowned out, and this fire was ripping along and hit this company's second growth managed forest. And the fire dropped to the ground and crept along the floor of the forest through that managed land, and then came out the other side, hit the federal land again, and burst back up into a stand replacement type fire. And we just can't let our federal forests sit the way they are. Well, I guess we can, and we'll continue to have 500,000 acre fires, but the public, I don't think, wants that to happen. If we don't manage, have healthy forests, we're not going to have spotted owls and the things that we're worried about. The Biscuit Fire, I don't know how many spotted owls were destroyed and their habitat was destroyed in the Biscuit Fire. It was a 500,000 acre fire. And if we were more able to get into the forest and reduce fuels, we could provide products and habitat and recreation and all those things we need.